Good morning, everybody. Good evening, everybody. Let's stand for the flag salute, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I got, like, before we go on, I got to talk about something. You remember, and you remind me, and I remind you to remind me. Okay. Young man, what's your name, sir?
Paul.
Paul, thank you, Paul. Paul, please call the roll.
Mr. Maltavano?
Yes, here.
Mr. Del Tufo?
Excused.
Mr. Smith? Mr. Tangora? Oh, Miss Tangora?
Excused.
Dr. Marchese? Mr. Korobanik?
Here.
Commissioner Scarpelli?
Here.
Mr. Goitiendia? Mayor Kelly?
Excused.
Mr. Kazira?
Here.
Mr. Contella?
Here.
Ms. Rempecheski? Mr. Arcudi?
Here. Yeah. I read that list. She has every name phonetically spelled. I'm telling you. Pursuant to the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting was included in the annual notice of the regular meetings for the year 2026, as advertised in the Star Ledger, the Herald News, and the Nutley Sun on November 20th, 2025. With copies posted on the Township of Nutley Bulletin Board, first floor Town Hall. A copy is filed in the office of the Township Clerk, and copies are available to all members of the general public. Okay, we received some minutes for the January 7th.
Assign your alternates first.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's why we got you here, buddy. I tell you what. So let's see, Jerry's not here. So Ms. Robicheski, please sit for Mr. Del Tufo. And that's it, right? Everybody else is, oh no, Carol's not here. And Mr. Cantella, please sit for Ms. Tangor. Is that good? All right, good. Okay, again, we have minutes that were sent to us a day or so ago. Does anybody have any comments, questions, rude remarks? No?
Move it.
Move it. Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Counselor?
Yes, communications and bills. I have one bill for approval. It's for the Ms. Sanchez-Harry's attendance at preparation of the meeting minutes for January 7, 2026, which were just approved. It's the amount of $150, which I find to be fair and reasonable.
It would be paid.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. That's it?
That's it for bills.
Okay. No communications?
No other communications. I do have a short attorney's report.
So why don't we do that now and then, why don't you do that now and then we'll go over the workshop
Yep.
stuff real quick.
So at the last meeting, one of the questions that arose was what's going to happen with notices once the newspapers start to shrink and disappear, et cetera. And I think Commissioner Scarpelli raised that. I don't know if you're aware, but we did have a meeting today of the attorneys and various people from the township concerning that very subject matter, because there's been a lot that's been kicked around down in Trenton, and we have to follow the Trenton rules, so to speak. So there's two aspects of this to look at. One is the announcement that Mark reads at the beginning of the meeting that indicates where the township has published notices of these meetings under the Sunshine Law. And historically, we've always had several newspapers for that to be published in, and in fact, it's been done for this year already. But the reality is that's going to stop happening at some point. And as I understand, it'll probably stop happening, at least as just paper, in March. In March, we're going to go to an electronic posting of the notices that you read for this meeting. You'll read them still here. That'll still be done. But the posting for that won't be in a newspaper anymore. It will be on the township website. This is all, by the way, I'm doing it kind of generally because it's still fuzzy, but this is mandated by the state. This is the way has to be done, okay? There's a little wrinkle to that we'll get to in a second, okay? And and then the second part of it, which is we're still we raised today, and it was kind of interesting at the different perspectives we have. When an applicant comes in for one of our applications, they have to give notice to the homeowners within 200 feet, which we all know about, but they also have to do a publication in a newspaper. So if the newspapers are disappearing, now what? Okay. And the now what is they're supposed to publish on websites, a website that has a number of criteria associated with it. It'll be posted on the township website too, but that's not sufficient notice. They have to publish on a website, and it's got a lot of detail to it, which I won't bore you with. But for example, the website has to have 4,000 hits per month in order to qualify. So it sounds like a lot, okay, especially if you think of us, the way things used to be. But it's not really a lot anymore because the hits can be, if it's the Star Ledger and they're one of the ones who still are in the business of now having it on their electronic version, well, they have more than 4,000 a month for sure, okay? And there are other publications similar. USA Today is another one, and so on and so forth. In fact, we were talking about it. And what about Tap Into? Does Tap Into qualify? Because do they have 4,000 hits a month? I think if we have something going on, they have 4,000 hits in a week. So it's certainly possible that they could fit the definition. So we're sorting through that. And here's kind of the dilemma because of the way they wrote the law. We were talking about, okay, so an applicant comes in, Dave gives them the paperwork, they fill out the paperwork, and they're said, here's the 200 feet neighbors, and go and do your publication and consistent with the law. Well, the people are given no guidance as to what that means. So facetiously, perhaps, this attorney said today, this one, me, said, well, the people who come before my board with applications, they have experienced counsel. They should be able to figure out where to do the publication. And I was quickly countermanded by Ms. McGovern, who said, well, the people that she has before her board are not likely to have the sophistication of those attorneys. So how are they going to pick? And I said, well, that's a very good point. So in order to kind of make this happen, I think we're going to come up with some websites that we know qualify. And they can pick and choose which one they use, and they'll no doubt pay a fee, I'm sure. But those applicants will have a list that will, and they'll have to provide identification, what the website was, when they put it up there, et cetera, just like they do for newspapers now, except it'll be done electronically. We were all kind of cynical about this because, whenever there's, quote, improvements, end quote, get made, there's changes that get made, and sometimes they're not so great in terms of improvements at the end of the day. I said, well, who are these websites who are going to be getting the new business? So my true belief, it's going to be the same companies that had it before, and they're just not going to put it in papers. They're going to put it on the website. So if it's a Star Ledger, they're going to have just as much business as they had before. So the fear of them disappearing because of the absence of fees is probably not justified. Will the fees be cheaper? I don't know. Will they be, what will the requirements be? We really don't know any of that yet, but that's kind of an overview of what's going to be happening. So you will be seeing in the next couple of months, 3 months or so, the notices that we're going to be reading to the public are going to change somewhat to reflect these changes. And these changes will be happening, gradually, but kind of quickly when you think about it, 60 days or so.
Located in a neighboring town have to be on the website in order to see the notices.
Well, if you're a neighboring town, you'll get your notices just like you always got them. They'll get the mailed notice. They'll have the mailed notice, but if they want to see the online notice, you'll look at the website. Well, the electronic newspaper, no doubt. There'll be some place electronically where this stuff is posted. And that's how that mechanics is going to work. We don't have those details yet. You know, well, maybe you can. I wouldn't trust it, but anyway, that's going to be happening in short order. Yes.
Not to throw a wrinkle into that, but the chambers here is gonna be under construction soon, which means our meetings will be moved, and I don't think that's been determined where they're gonna be moved yet. And so will we have to renotice the meetings for the rest of the time that we're moved? 6 to 8 months.
Well, that's a fair question. So I suspect, even though it's a great question, I think it's probably an easy answer because they're going to,
Glad.
they're going to have the electronic notices anyway. So look, first of all, the neighbors, if this chamber is going to be moved, one, they're going to get a notice of where they have to go. Okay.
No, but we do the yearly notice, right, for all our
Right.
meetings? So
Well, I
does that
think
have
what's-
to be redone?
I think what's going to happen is there's going to be a republished new notice with the electronic information as to where the township is also requiring that you use. We're trying to work through that because the statute has some specifics and we're just kind of digging into it today. But I will say this, I was actually pretty impressed. I'm not usually too impressed, but I was pretty impressed because everybody sort of jumped into this. Lenny was really all over it. She pretty much had a lot of, I'd say she had us like 90% through it with her information gathering. And, of course we have to see that this actually works. I don't know if it's going to work yet until we employ it, but there's going to be some overlap period. So I think that's going to be the testing. And I don't know if you can get away with extensions of time and things like that. Usually the state provides for all that. But it should be interesting. Hopefully it's more transparent.
Our next meeting may be in a different location,
Oh,
maybe.
The next meeting.
Of the planning board.
The franchise?
yeah. Well,
Maybe.
Okay.
it'll be
As
interesting.
long as I know where it is.
Yeah.
We'll be all right. Is there a minimum amount of publications that they have to use?
You mean currently?
Yes, because I recite 3, but is it required to be?
I think they're required to have at least 2. And I think the third one is, added on.
Okay.
The real problem too is, let's face it, even with the current notice, these folks have to be able to get a hold of those offices to put this stuff in and publish it. And it's not so easy anymore because the hours are restricted. They're only there certain days of the week. You have to be in by certain deadlines, otherwise you don't make the publication date. So, what was probably pretty good and pretty easy way back when has gotten more difficult for applicants than anybody using the newspapers for press.
Be able to just go online and do it? Like on their website, without even talking to a human being?
Well, you might be able to try that and see if.
How you
and hope-
confirm that it went through?
And how do you know it worked? Look, we just had that issue recently with the publication was supposed to be in the Nutley paper. It was in the Belleville paper.
Right.
And they confirmed it was in the Nutley paper watershed, which was like, how did they make that mistake? But it would have been a bad mistake for us and not our fault, but we caught it. And so we corrected it. So the problem is, even with your suggestion, who knows if they get it right?
Yeah.
You still have human beings at the other end that could make mistakes.
And you have to be billed.
What?
You have to be billed.
Yes, that's true too.
Yeah. So
Well, you'll keep us
I'll
updated.
keep you posted on that. You'll probably know about it pretty fast. So.
Okay, all right, very good, thank you. And we don't have any memorializations, no business, old business. We're confirming that February 4th, 2026, we are gonna hear the 300 Kingsley Windsor Place Townhouse redevelopment plan
We are.
presentation.
We've confirmed it. We've been told yes, so we haven't heard a no, so that should happen.
And as of right now, it's gonna be here, but we're not. All right, so we're gonna do a little workshop work, and I think we should just talk about 2 different things, okay? And that's all we need to really address, because we've addressed a lot of these things, a lot of our prohibited uses have been already sent to the commissioners for their review. But there's two of them that are, I think they're a little pressing, we might want to get on right away. One of them being accessory dwelling units, because there is a bill in the state senate. It's Senate Bill 2347 1106. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend you read it because it's a little restricted for the towns. And the way it's written, anybody who has read it, it basically is saying nothing a town can do can stop that from going through anyway. But I don't believe that's true. I think if we have a specific definition and the commissioner listed as a prohibited use, I think if they try to put it through, I think that and other towns do it. I know I have an ordinance for 3014-21, which is Maplewood's prohibited use for accessory dwelling. So I'm sure that they're not the only other town out there that are going to do that. So
Let me just make one comment on it.
Please do.
And in the past, when we've dealt with the state on this and many other issues, the state does have the power legally to override local government, okay? And they can be pretty successful with that. So the real question, aside from reading these carefully, which is an excellent idea, and looking at other townships to see how they've handled it, because why build the clock twice if you don't have to? The focus, it seems to me, to kind of keep the state in control is health, safety, and welfare. You know, if you as a township, you know, look at the health, safety, and welfare of anything, you probably have greater expertise than the state does in knowing what's in the best interest of Nutley from a health, safety, and welfare point of view. So I'm going to make something up that doesn't apply, but suppose they have some kind of, you know, water, you know, stormwater offsite requirement that says blah, blah, blah. Okay. And they say you have to do it this way. Well, I happen to think that if you go to Commissioner Scarpelli's department and they look at this and the staff that they have and the engineering people they have, and they look at this, they say, hey, you do this, you'll have people drowning, getting sick, being flooded out. You know, if we do everything to change what we presently have, it's going to create a problem or substantially exacerbate a problem. If you have something like that and you detail it in terms of why you're not doing whatever it is that you're being asked to do, and you don't just make things up, because I don't think anybody here would ever do that. But if you can detail that, I think that there's a good chance your position will be sustained over the state. And this accessory, dwelling unit that's been bandied about for quite a few years now, and it's still getting bandied about. And it means different things in different locations and states and cities. There is no real definition of it. I mean, they're trying to create a definition of it down in Trenton. And they're looking at it really from their parochial point of view. Because what would be a great accessory dwelling unit in New York City, maybe? Probably none. And what would be okay in, say, Buffalo might very well be different because of the landscape, literally, and the property sizes, et cetera. If you've got properties that are multi-acres, putting an accessory dwelling unit on it may not even be observed. You might not even know it was done. And that might be something that, it fits and it would be adopted. But if you have a property that you're going to create a problem with ingress and egress for automobiles, for example. We have Nutley's a very developed town. We have some lots that are pretty small, okay? And they have single family homes on them. Sometimes they're multifamily homes for that matter, because they go back. That's to say, I want to put an accessory dwelling unit on this lot. It's, they say 40 by 100 or 40 by 80 or something. And stick that on there, and we already have two cars, backed up to each other. Now we're going to have a third one. I don't know if that's a great idea. This gentleman, this
one we used when we had discussed this about a year ago. And that is a definition that we put together.
Is it already in our?
No, it hasn't been.
There's nothing in the actual books. There's a red line version that Paul sent that I actually was handed out, which we don't like. So
This is a while since I read that proposed law. Was it mainly because of rentals, trying to increase the
They're
availability?
basically.
No,
trying to-
not just,
My,
no.
my opinion is they're trying to increase the availability of homes, because there's a shortage of homes in New Jersey.
Mhm.
Affordable,
It's not just
affordable,
rentals. Yeah.
affordable housing.
Right.
It's under the guise of affordable housing. So we don't have enough, according to the state. Some people, we don't have enough affordable housing. In order to create affordable housing, this is the way to do it, is to have an accessory unit on the property.
So is it the township, they want to participate in that form of affordable housing? Is it other-
No, I
This,
think,
this bill would be, I don't know what you would call
global.
it. Well,
Well,
Well, what they're
Just-
gonna do,
just-
they're going to define it, whether it's this definition or something else. They're gonna define one and say this has gotta be permitted, period. Mhm.
Federal.
Yeah, well, you'd still have to you'd still have to comply. You'd still have to comply with the federal because the federal tends to override the state. You know, by the way, there was a decision just came down yesterday involving affordable housing in the federal courts where I think 27 towns challenged the state and they lost. I read it and I said, man, this is a lawyer's dream, but it was never going to happen. And even the reporting of it was pretty bad. But yeah, I don't think you're going to come up with some striking principle to set it aside because this has been around since I was in law school, and that was a few years ago. Okay. And that's when it started with Mount Laurel 1. And yeah, and it's just rolled forward.
When we first read that, sort of.
I honestly don't know.
Here's
I
a
think,
general.
I think it may.
Well, it can. That is the danger. The danger, the danger is maybe, no, there's been a big turnover in the state legislature. So maybe some of the proponents are not there, or maybe they're more of them.
There's more of them.
Who knows? But the problem I have with the state legislature is if you looked at the laws that got passed in the last 2 weeks before Governor Murphy left office, there's a whole slew of things that was last minute, put throughs and, decisions of that governor, whether you like them or you don't like them is not the issue. But some of these things have been debated forever. No phones in the classrooms, We've been talking about this for years, and I got people telling me, oh, you can never do it. Nutley will never be able to do this, et cetera. Look, they did it in New York City. They're going to do it in New Jersey. And discussion's over. Discussion's over. It's
Figure it out.
Yeah, that's right.
Figure
It's
it out.
the discussion's done. And many other things like that. If that happens, you get the steam rolling behind something.
Suggesting that board should start looking at those areas to present in case.
I think you need to look at, look at the town and say, where would this be a terrible idea? Okay, I think, well, it might be a terrible idea philosophically for some people everywhere. On the other hand, there's got to be a cutoff where it just is a horrendous idea. I mean, fire situations, anything that's health, safety, and welfare, we should not be endangering the public that we presently have or the future public.
Additional.
It's a nice policy. It's a nice policy.
Well, so to get back to real quick to what
Mhm.
you were saying about it fits here and it fits there, New Jersey's a perfect example. You got Hoboken and Union City, the very dense areas. Then you have suburban like Nutley, and then you have Warren County where every house is on 5 acres. So I called up Brittany Timberlake's office a year ago and I spoke to her assistant and I said, is there gonna be any kind of adjustments made or consideration for the density of where it's, and he said no. So,
Well, what they really want to do is have a one size fits all. And I think in land use, you can't have one size fits all. You have to look at the land. We have all kinds of reasons in the law for doing that for other reasons. Why is this any different? Is it a policy making argument? We need more housing. We need more affordable housing. Therefore, throw caution to the wind. I don't think that's a great, way of approaching it. I think maybe if it's needed and it fits.
This bill also mentions towns like Nutley who don't have any overnight parking.
Yeah.
It would basically kill overnight parking rule in Nutley. That is one of the greatest things we have in this town. And we all know that. So I mean, they're looking at all these different items that will drastically negatively.
So let's just talk about that for a second. Let's say that's our Alamo. We're going to defend overnight parking. Why? Okay. Why? And well, you're saying it, and let's do this. Let's, what's the proof that's better? Well, no, but that's kind of very narrow. I think that's too narrow. You have to show, I think this is what you would have to show. Nutley has it, and our reason is public safety. And we mean that by not having those cars on the street, it makes it easier for police to patrol. And that's a safety issue. I'll go with that. But just let's use the broader, it's safer because crime detection is easier. I got to believe there's the way of looking at a town that doesn't restrict overnight parking and compare us to somebody else, take a street that's like Chestnut Street and pick on the Chestnut Street over in another town. We have no overnight parking. What's the crime rate on that street? Where they have overnight parking, what's the crime rate on that street? Anything, but all of that. But I think you have to do a comparison to defend and show, we listen, I know everybody who's native Nutley person, like Mrs. Kazira, no overnight parking. That's it. If I want to have a raw nerve, that's the nerve, and many other people too. But the justification is the very things you're saying. It's safer, but we're defining safety now. Better for crime, better for accident prevention. So I think what you need to do. Snow removal. Yeah, that's for sure. But the point of the matter is, I think you need to document it. And say, look, we've studied this and this is what we find. And then when somebody says, oh, your overnight parking has to go, you say, no, we're not going to sacrifice safety for snow plowing, for accidents, crimes. And we have a database for supporting your position, not just the feel good kind of part of it, which is probably fine too, but that's not going to win the war. So I think you have to look at that for all of these issues. I know it's a lot of work, but if you want to maintain. Well, you know what? I'll tell you, I don't know why.
She is our rep, by the way.
Well, I don't know why, and probably never thought to ask, for one thing. And maybe she doesn't view this part of her constituency as having a significant issue. And she may not know those three things that we just mentioned. So they're not going to know everything. They just don't. But I think if you're going to defend something, you have to have a basis.
So,
somebody else.
go ahead.
Is it truly part of affordable housing? Because the way affordable housing works that I know of, if a builder's gonna build an apartment building, they have to put a certain amount aside, and then you have to apply, anybody can
This
take it. This is different.
This is addition. This is addition.
This is philosophical,
Yes.
not Mount Laurel, the Council on Affordable Housing. This is a philosophical argument that there is not enough affordable housing. How can we make more affordable housing in New Jersey? You know how we can do it? By letting people take their garage and convert it into a dwelling unit.
That's one of the
And it
answers.
doesn't matter, like, how does it fit in with our zoning?
Doesn't.
Well, it doesn't. They
And
override.
if you look at the bill, it says you can't deny it due to setbacks, can't deny it due to parking, can't deny it due to anything. I'm paraphrasing.
When did they start this?
Oh, this has been going on for.
Yeah, this has been out
This is
there.
over a year ago.
This is a fairly recent version that Mark is talking about.
We're getting back to it now because all of those big applications are pretty much done for now. We have a little time to go back to workshops. I can email this out to everybody so everybody has it.
I think, but I do think that the direction is going to pick up in this way.
So,
Especially with the new administration.
Well, I think, listen, I don't want to prejudge the new administration, but you have to look at the legislature because that's where this stuff gets its steam. And they're the ones who pass the laws, whether you like them or you don't like them, they come from your legislature. And if they get together and they say, oh, we got this great instant idea, that's what you're going to get, the instant idea. When we have bad laws at any level, it's a product of not fully looking at the problem adequately when you had it. You thought something needed to be done, you did it, and it turned out to have consequences.
So clarify something. The scenarios that you're discussing, that would be if we adopted this definition, commissioners made it a prohibited use, and now it's on the books. And then they try to pass this.
Yep.
We would need that information to fight at that point. We don't need that. We don't need the detail of the safety and all of that stuff to actually get it on the books as a prohibited use.
Well, I think.
But we need to be prepared in case we have to fight.
I think you do, but look, it's not going to be developed instantaneously. We know these things take time to put together. But I think if you were going to come up with your own definition of an accessory dwelling unit, if that's the concept that you're looking for, and you want to have it not impact upon health, safety, and welfare, you ought to have something that's part of your definition that says, yeah, this is a great idea, but it can't impact the health, safety, and welfare, and be detailed about it. It can't impact overnight parking, for example. Yeah, I think you really.
I'm sure there's planning boards all over the state right now who are concerned about this. So I wonder if other municipalities could now institute no overnight parking. In advance.
Well, they
Try that in Belleville.
Yeah, true.
look, the towns can try
Put
to.
the genie back into the bottle.
Right. Look, towns can try to do whatever they want to do, but if it looks like they're doing it to beat the bill, they're going to lose. That's why I think we have a better shot at winning, because we're not doing it to beat the bill. We already have it, and we're just explaining why we've done it and why it should be maintained. And I'm just using that simple one as an example. There's probably other things you should look at the same way in terms of, land use and development. Think about, taking this theoretical accessory dwelling unit and sticking it on different lots. What's the consequence? Like the law is crazy, because to say setbacks don't matter is a terrible idea. Setbacks do matter. Setbacks are part of safety. Okay. That they're part of safety, and to not have setbacks. Oh yeah. You could say, yeah. Well, for a lot of reasons, it's a terrible idea. I mean, when setbacks are too small, we have problems. I mean, there are complexes that have been built with troubles.
Not to try to get into the head of the people who wrote this, but I think they wrote it in a way that to prevent towns, anything they could use, anything that you could use as a way of denying, whether it be parking or setbacks or.
You're right. You're right. They've tried to anticipate.
Lot coverage, whatever. They put everything in there saying, you can't deny it because of any of these things. Any of your local zoning.
This supersedes it.
Yeah, well, that's what they're trying to do. And as I say, okay, granted, you are trying to do that, but you can't override the health, safety, and welfare of the public. If you're going to do this and you're going to create a fire hazard that's inevitable, you can't create the fire hazard and say, that's okay, because we've said it's okay.
Yeah.
I think that's going to get set aside by a judge, and it won't be enforced. Now, am I right? We'll never know until we get there. But I think you have to think about it that way. You have to think about, how do you protect the public? And look, I'm not saying there's not a good intention behind some of these laws, that there is. But I don't believe in one size fits all. I think you have to look at things very carefully. Certainly, that's something I've learned being here board attorney. You know, you have to look at it. That would be a great way, I think. You know, you want to show a judge, hey, judge, look at this.
But
You know what I think would be a great idea, what you're saying? A lot of the streets over by me, it's half Bloomfield, half Nutley. They can park on the street. They allow when it's a snowstorm, they've got the signs up, they have to be off the street for that. But that's how you can compare our half to their half. And that might get like the crime rate up, what happens here.
Well, you
how
can
do you,
look at
how
it.
do you, how do you, where do you get that information?
Well, you get it from Bloomfield and Nutley, I would think, in that example. I
And
mean,
that's
I don't
what
know.
I think that would
It's
be
public
great
record.
because now you've got one street that's half Nutley, half Bloomfield. Let's see what goes on here. Let's see what goes on there.
Look, there's no, to find things that twin up identically won't be so easy, okay? We can predict that ahead of time, but you have to have some,
Yeah.
reasonable comparisons.
So now you could start having, and now there's kids, what about the schools? I mean, this could be.
Right. How about our infrastructure? Could our infrastructure handle it? Water and storage? If everybody puts one on the property, that's double the storage, double the water, right?
Yeah, well, these are valid points, and the
That's
question,
when it's-
yeah,
We're probably never, you know what,
Well-
there'll be so much
You're
opposition.
not getting wherever you move, I'll just vote. Have one guy.
I mean, a lot of legislation gets passed without really thinking through all the implications.
I would say that's very true.
Yes, I would say that's definitely
Yeah.
true.
Half
Pretty
these
common.
people don't own homes.
So are you saying that we can't give this to the commissioners as a definition and a prohibited use? And while that process is being done, then we could put together information how we would defend it? Because defending it as public safety and welfare and all of that, is that actually verbiage in the ordinance?
I think if you want to have a better chance of your ordinance and your positions being sustained in the future, you have to have a knowledge base that goes with it and some evidence. Well,
Be part of it, just in your presentation to the commission, help them feel, you know what, you're right.
you create a white paper or something, yeah. And I like to, listen, I like the notion of having some research to support this.
Is that something Paul?
Doesn't hurt.
Listen, I don't have an answer for that. I mean, it could come from lots of different sources. I was trying to think ahead of time, ahead because I knew this would come up at some point. How would you do this? Interns, college interns can put together a package, or even high school interns can put together a package. If you tell them what you want them to look for, you give them the authority to go get the police reports or records for a street in Bloomfield or wherever it's going to be. And then you get it and somebody has to analyze it. Then that becomes the second step. But to get the thing rolling, there's a lot of different resources that you can have.
I don't have any interns.
Yeah, I get that. I've only mentioned that because somebody just offered me the opportunity to have some free interns. But it's a narrow period of time between May and June. So it's not like a lot of time that they'd be working for me. So I'm looking at it.
You agree that we should have more information before we send it up to you guys? Or do you?
Well, I understand Mr. Kaziro's point.
I mean,
And, it's certainly better to have empirical data to base your decisions on. I'm wondering if there's some language we could put in there. I'll rely on Mr. Kaziro's.
interns?
No, no,
Legal acumen.
Yes. on that you could put in there that would kind of be a catch-all, for lack of a better word, as we then try to get that empirical data.
I'll take a stab at it. I could put together some language. I'm not so sure it's any more supportable than what you already have there because I don't have the database either. Everything you're saying, by the way, I think is logical and makes sense. Look, is it easier to snowplow with the cars off the street? Yes. Again,
Well, just for instance,
yes,
right? If we get the storm that everybody's
Yeah,
talking about,
yeah.
right? and you have parking on the street.
Yeah.
And you try to put 18 inches of snow or 12 inches of snow.
Mhm.
You know, on a street that has parking on both sides of the street. It's pretty hard to do. And then if you can, try to get a fire truck down that street.
Well,
Or,
you know,
or an ambulance.
To your point, let's assume we get the snow. I think you ought to have the videos running from your guys and what they encounter and what the fire department may encounter. I think it's a totally valid point. Yeah, and the EMT people too. I mean, I remember a bunch of years ago, I had a medical episode at home, which was like overrated by my family. So they called for EMT, and like, I was embarrassed, okay, because they, they sent these vehicles, they took up, and it had snowed. It had snowed, and we had some neighbors who had not cleared the street. So they couldn't quite get to the curb with the vehicle for me. I could have probably been wiped out by being taken into the vehicle rather than whatever was bothering me, which was nothing, by the way. But it makes the very point that you're talking about. Look, there's a certain amount of that you can't avoid because there's just so much snow perhaps in this storm. But add the car situation to it, it's terrible. And I'll share with you this anecdote too. I guess a snowstorm ago, not the latest one, but the one before that, somebody parked in front of our house. Okay. And, so the plowing didn't really happen. And it was, more than it was an inconvenience and a major annoyance for my spouse. Okay. Who was very unhappy about the whole thing. And then we have another storm that blows in and somebody parked there again. So here it was about to happen again. I said, don't bother me telling me about this. She said, well, Joe's people aren't going to be able to. I said, call the police department. I'm not law enforcement. Call the police department. And they responded and took care of the problem, by the way. But the whole point is, and by the way, it was very easy to get to the curb tonight when I was dropping stuff off and coming in. There was still some snow and ice. But it makes your point. It's safer. It's much safer to have that done right. And I think this might be a good time to take some pictures. Maybe put the videos on, save some, take whatever it takes to get a couple of good shots. I think that could help bolster whatever it is that I would say and what you would do. So.
You can see the narrative, or the narrative, carefully laid out. Given the example of the fire truck not fitting down the street.
These are perfectly logical things. These are perfectly logical things. You people aren't stretching to come up with these things because they're all natural and inevitable. And they may apply elsewhere too, but they can particularly apply to Nutley. And if it happens here, and that's a reason for your taking the steps, document it.
There's no wire enough. See them. Wow.
It just think about the towns
Not during snow though.
that have parking on the street.
Yeah.
And now they're gonna add more people and cars. Where are they gonna park that?
Yeah.
Very point. Very point. I think that's built into these definitions and allowances of these things are increased traffic safety problems because of exactly what you're pointing to, that there's going to be extra vehicles. Where are you going to put them?
I think you need to know. I think they've already adopted. Families all over. Or families that are with the peak. All kinds of other trying to clean it up. This high density of multi-family, that's what happens. That's what it looks like. So you can use it, not pick up a whole, but you use it for example. What I'm putting with there, streets are the same way. Here in the North Melbourne, they are in Bloomfield. I guess we could do Bloomfield in the comparison as well.
Well, lots of places, really.
Yeah, more have the parking than don't, I'm sure.
Yes. Yeah, I'm curious. So,
It's not. It's There were many more than there are now. I mean, Glen Ridge doesn't have overnight parking. We don't have overnight parking. Montclair may not have overnight
You
parking.
know, the point of, I think it's short-sighted the way they look at every town and say one size fits all. You know, and we're talking about Nutley because it affects us and we're trying to figure that out. But if you look at some of these dense places like Bayonne, New Jersey, now there is a dense city, friends, very dense.
History.
Sure, sure.
Not enough. But for her, really,
Mhm.
Joe mentioned, for building
Mhm.
part of housing. But she said it was a big deal with real estate.
Well, it is a big deal. I mean, look, some of these areas were designed with narrow streets, okay? Not necessarily here, but elsewhere, narrow streets, very limited off-street parking, maybe one vehicle, or maybe the garage in one vehicle, not always both. And, you know, what do you do when the third car shows up? And there is no parking lot nearby, okay? You try to find a neighbor who says you can use my driveway. I mean, that's what you have to do in the old days and still may have to do in many places. But the answer is let's make the place more dense by allowing more, you know, more of these accessory dwelling units because they don't have room to start with.
You know,
Okay?
we've had discussions about subdividing big lots
Mhm.
into legal lots,
Mhm.
right? And then trying to come up with ways of maybe preventing that in some areas. You don't need to subdivide. Just
No.
go put the.
No.
Yeah, just put it
No.
on.
Just put it
Put it
up.
up. Yeah.
You don't even have to build it. Talking about existing construction. We're talking about even basements.
Yeah, yeah.
It could be inside the house, it could be outside the house.
They would take standard two-family, make it a four-family. Building department didn't even know it, they were renting people in the attic, people in the basement, and a real crisis.
Single to double. Then we go from a single family to a double.
Yeah,
family.
yeah.
And he said, you know what? Your mother-in-law needs a place to live, and somebody
That's
needs a
how it
place.
starts.
And then,
Yeah, it's always a family member.
It's
Yeah.
never the one.
but,
Yeah.
but the thing is, I'm just counselor thinking down the road, so. But, you know, we're having this discussion and I'm sure there are other towns that are having this discussion, but then there's gonna also be people that are gonna try to fight it. So if the state, I'm just wondering how that works. If the state comes up with this law, let's say it's
Yeah.
passed. And we put something in place to not allow
Mhm.
Try to put it ahead.
ahead of
Yeah,
time.
definitely gotta be before.
Yeah. Now, would it be something that residents could fight us? Say, look, everybody else in the state has it. Why, you know, so.
Well,
Residents can fight you on anything.
yeah, you know,
they definitely can.
Setting ourselves
Yeah.
up. Legal routes.
well, it will be a legal battle if you want to maintain that or any other.
But say it was upheld, right, Cap, like you're okay, that your prohibition is okay. Someone's gonna go for a variance.
Right.
Say,
And that's-
you know, state law says I'm able to do it,
Yeah,
right? Even though you're prohibiting it, I'm gonna go for a variance.
right.
Is that the language that we're talking about? You know, is that this is that it has to be approved? That a term that we could throw on this definition by approval only?
No, I think it has to be automatically approved. That's the way the state laws are being written. You can't, you know, well, they would say their law overrides your law is what it comes down to.
They need a building permit, but only for quality of the codes for electric and plumbing and framing and all that stuff that any other contractor or builder would have to do. But it could be literally on your rear property line, like right on it. you know?
They're basically saying in state law, and I can't wait to read it, but they're basically saying, go ahead, do whatever you want. If you're gonna create an extra space for somebody to live, do it.
When you read it, you're upset.
Yeah. Yes, and so I'm gonna send it to you and I apologize in advance,
Okay.
okay? So, all right, so
Is it a committee thing that you were saying? There's a committee for the review or presenting that
I mean, for us?
Yeah.
Well, the zoning committee is the ones that put this together,
Exactly.
right?
We need to go back and see.
Well,
Probably a good idea.
I think it's probably a good idea.
But speak about what we talked about tonight.
Yeah, I mean, what I,
And there might be other things to expand upon. I mean, we're just kind of jumping on it, so.
but what, I'm gonna say what concerns me, but I'm not, it doesn't really concern us. Right now, I don't know how to proceed. I don't know where we would go to get the information that we need, and I don't know, I'm not really sure what is it that we need to get this a prohibited use in Nutley. So when this does go through, God forbid, have something on the books, what would be our next step? I mean, we could sit and come up with all these different things, the parking, the this and that. Is that what we need to do?
I think
We
you
need
come
to
up with,
gather information that makes it.
I think you come up with the bullet points of what you would like to see, and then somebody else has to. Yeah, and I think then you refer to the commissioners in order for them to identify experts that would be able to do some of this work, or a technique or methodology for getting the answers.
Okay, so we have a definition.
Right.
We will come up with bullet points why we think this is a negative impact on Nutley, and that gets sent to the commission.
How it affects the health.
Health, safety, and welfare.
Safety.
Yeah.
Just now, you're gonna present it to.
No, you'll do it here, you'll adopt it, we'll
I'm
send it.
sure if I go through all my archives, I'm no Jerry Del Tufo, nothing wrong, but I'm sure if I go through, I'll find all our stuff and I'll redistribute it. And we might even have enough notes to really focus in on a half a dozen different things to add to the.
Yeah, we did talk about. For extensive.
Yes,
Finding. That really is.
yeah. I spent a fortune on on cold cuts, and the antipasta was magnificent, wasn't it? You were there all night.
When are you meeting?
Yeah. We had a meeting in Jerry's backyard one. It was me, Jerry, Anthony, and Lorraine and Dave. And I staggered off of that. Man, oh man, did we get a lot done.
Well, do it again, do it again. So
Hold it.
so let's deal with something easier. Noise.
Yes, that's our next thing. The reason I wanted to address noise, which zoning committees and this board has never really addressed before directly, is it's the opinion of my counselor and myself that how we address noise ordinances in Nutley is insufficient. So I sent everybody what's called a model noise control ordinance. And I think our expert, whatever his name was that we had for one of our applications, he did a great job. He's very knowledgeable on it. With the database coming, noise is an issue for a database. So we need to have ourselves.
Talking about the proposal after application.
Right, well, I mean, that could be a year away. I don't know what it's gonna be here, but we should have something.
Data set, under say database.
I did say database.
Yeah.
I meant data set.
Yeah.
So my database is a little off kilter right now. Yeah, the data center, I actually spoke to, I think it was a guy in Clifton about the one that used to be ADP.
Uh-huh.
And, he said they haven't really had too many issues. And actually I spoke to the code enforcement, head of code enforcement in Clifton. He didn't say that they had too many issues, but they're between the mechanics of what a data center does and with the cooling and all that stuff. Plus, in this case, I think we're gonna be looking for a substation to help offset the electricity draw on our grid. I think it might be, and the location of where it is, that there's residential houses, it's fairly close proximity. I think we should have a noise ordinance adopted. So we have a guideline for that application and future applications.
Let me just add to it. I think that Mark is right in so far as what he's just said, but I think it's broader than that. We don't have we don't have a constitutional noise ordinance. We have a noise ordinance that's so subjective that if somebody challenges it, they'll win, And so you effectively don't have a noise ordinance, even though it's on the books. And I think our expert, when he testified about noise and noise ordinances, I think he was very kind to us because he didn't emphasize that, but he did point out, you don't have the model noise control ordinance that the state put out quite a while ago, by the way. And
That's actually how I found out.
And- yeah, right, yeah, right. But listen, this is a very good noise ordinance. And you can modify this, by the way, okay? So what I think you need to do with this, everybody needs to read it and understand it. And then what you should be doing is, hey, what did they overlook? Or what else should be in here, okay? Now, the way that works is if you want to make changes to this, the state allows you to make the changes, but you can't adopt it until they look at it and approve it. Yes, this ordinance, this is from the, yeah, this is, you can adopt this, right,
That the town township would want to do.
Right.
You have to get their approval.
right. So you've got this model ordinance here. Yeah, we'll make noise. But the fact is they invite whatever changes you have be made, you submit it, a red line copy is probably sufficient. Once you study it, and you give it to them and they'll say yes or no to the changes.
That's if we want to make change.
Right, you don't have to, but I say study it first and think about it. If there are changes, make them now, get them approved. But if you're not gonna recommend changes, at least recommend that they adopt this. Because you need to do it. You need to do it.
Do we, and I'm just asking the question, not,
Yep.
trying to push for this. Would it be helpful to have our expert come in and give us his opinion of this model ordinance and any changes based on what he's testified in the state, where it may make it a little bit better?
Reach
Or
out to them and see if you.
Listen, I think they were very professional in their two presentations we had them for, and I wish I'd known about them sooner because I think they do a great job. And I think they could be not only helpful with the applications, but once these places are built, you're going to want to test them to make sure that they are complying and there's not a problem. And there may not be a problem, but I think they're very, on top of their game. So I think if you said to them, hey, we're Nutley, take a look at the town. This is us. What would you recommend we add to this or change? I think that's probably a worthwhile expenditure of money. And I think you could, I don't know if you could just do it at a workshop session like this, or you bring them in and ask them questions that way. It might be the best way because then everybody inputs into it.
Right.
And he could get back to you with his recommendation.
I just think that he was very knowledgeable. And I think if he's testifying throughout the state, I'm sure he's seen some of the pitfalls or some things that may make it a little bit stronger. I think it's worth, as Mr. Kazira said, worth the expenditure.
And I think he's the kind of guy too, if there's an environmental issue with, let's say, a neighboring property abutting up against a development, it might be a different impact or, a bigger impact that requires something more specific. So I think that would be certainly worthwhile, maybe a workshop. But in the meantime, I think everybody ought to read it and kind of exchange their ideas.
Everybody has it, right? I
Yep.
sent it out, so
Yep.
everybody has it.
But give everybody a
One of the
time.
things I'd like to have this guy do. And that's why I had Jessica send me the contact information, but unfortunately I never reached out to him. What does 65 decibels sound? How many decibels is that?
That was about 200 in my ear just now. I wasn't ready for that.
It's gotta be
Yeah,
It's gotta,
some,
a meter, yeah, that's
Yeah.
a meter. Yeah.
obviously.
The Essex Regional Health Commission has an ordinance in place because they handle that. So if we have a noise problem, like, so say somebody has an air conditioner on a roof and it's too loud
Mhm.
and they call us,
Mhm.
we call Essex Regional, they come out with their meters and they test it. And if it's high, they tell them whatever.
What do they measure it against? Do they measure it?
I'm not
Okay.
sure about that. I know they do it for us.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying when they come out,
read the decibels.
Yeah, they must.
no,
have-
I understand, but how do they look at a document and say, okay, you're above the level?
Yeah, they must have something.
They have the decibel meter.
No, that's how they measure the sound. The question is there a violation?
Oh, they must have something on the books as far as what's too
Do
loud.
you think you could ask somebody about it?
I
Just
can.
ask them what they have. Maybe
Yeah.
it might be this.
Yeah.
They
It might
might
be
be following,
this.
might be following.
It might be.
These charts. That's what I would like to know. What does,
Because I remember.
what does it
being
sound
that-
like? What does 55 decibels sound like?
They don't have a great.
Yeah. Well, that's, Rich Budrus works in us, yeah.
I really don't know.
All right, so,
65 decibels, roughly a conversation. or
Used to.
Oh, he's not doing it?
Something like a light conversation is 55 decibels.
Say that one more time.
65 decibels is
They lost the
roughly the
contract.
loudest of a normal conversation of quiet office or.
AI. So you're telling me I should go home and do the laundry?
This is about.
your wife sent that request.
Yeah. That's a good idea, though. I'll reach out to him tomorrow. She sent me the name of the company, but I don't think the guy's name was attached to it, but I'll find it.
It's in one of the reports.
Yeah, sure, I'll find
All right, so.
Like the old
we'll
days,
do
it's
that.
too loud over it.
it. Yeah.
Can I just ask a question? You were inquiring about certain,
Because decibels to Anthony is different than decibels to you and I,
objective thing.
right?
Look, happens all the time, what I do. Neighbor complaining about the noise, but another neighbor, things like that, so subjective, but just like you said, there are county people that come in, the building officials, and certain town bill process itself. Come in with the meter, you measure.
I imagine, yeah.
In the guidelines, we'll show you the guidelines, this is permissible for human, contact. They shut it off. Did you get the answer you were looking for about these?
No, actually.
Okay, just being asked.
All right, so I'll reach out to the notice professional and we'll see if we can get him here at our next workshop meeting, which might be the second meeting in February, unless something else comes up.
Okay.
And I'll call a meeting of the zoning committee. And we'll put our heads together and see if we can come up with, hopefully for that same workshop meeting, to have a couple of things to send you. I think I put you on that. I think I put you on that.
I think I'm on, where's parking on property?
Yeah, there's other, I think I've added you to the zoning committee for taking Loren's place, I think.
Do you want the committee list sent to everybody?
Yeah,
Why don't I
yeah.
just do that? I could, I'll have, we'll do that.
Yeah,
they were sent out.
yeah.
Oh, did you get it?
Zoning committee. All right, Dr. Larry, you're on the zoning committee. Okay, but check your email if you can't find it. Yeah, because I didn't, I gave all the information to Deborah and she sent it to me for my approval.
Hey, that'll help you with Pokemon.
They're out there now, 35 degrees, God bless them people.
Yeah, but you know what? It's dangerous. They're walking across streets, not looking and just looking at their phones.
I see we have a member of the public. Do you have any comments? Okay. I mean, you're welcome to speak if you like.
What else? We good?
I think that's it for now. If that, thank you for your input. I will take care of all those items. You have something, Aaron?
No, we on the agenda list, or we didn't reach the bottom.
Yeah, we reached the bottom. Well, we have not the very bottom yet. I'm looking for a motion.
Doesn't say motion. Adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Uh,
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Hi.
Good approach.